Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutch Greybeard. One of my favorite pastimes is to position myself in front of this TBR bookcase and pick up books. It is almost as if I need to take them out of their slumber every now and then, just to reassure them that their sole purpose, to be read, is not very far away. I leaf through them, smell them, and read a sentence here and there, which only adds to my eagerness to start reading them sooner rather than later. More than once did I leaf through the 4 books of the legendary Dragonriders of Pern I owned at that time. Those 4 I bought in December, and to finish the 2 first trilogies in this huge series, I bought another 2 this February. And now I've read all 6 of them, and have acquired 10 more along the way. I'll keep this video completely spoiler-free. Let me show you when I read these books and how long they kept me occupied. The first of the original trilogy, Dragonflight, I read at the end of January and first week of February, and it kept me busy for about 2 weeks. Dragonquest took me even longer, 22 days, and then I flew through the Harper Hall Trilogy with Dragonsong in 1 day, Dragonsinger in 2 days, and Dragondrums in 3 days. The White Dragon, the closing book of the original trilogy, took me 1 week, halfway in March. The first thing to mention is the reading order. The whole series consists of 25 novels, some of which have been written by McCaffrey, some by her son Todd, and some by both. I'll limit myself to the first 6 of this huge series, because those are the only ones I've read so far. There is some haziness about the preferred reading order. This amazes me at times, how poorly publishers help their customers in the best way to approach a series. You almost have to make a study of the different online sources before you can be confident that you have the best reading order possible. I chose to follow the reading order suggested by the author herself, because obviously she is the one who should know best. Anne McCaffrey advises to follow publication order except for The White Dragon. This one should be read as the 6th book. So you take a break from the original trilogy, read the Harper Hall Trilogy, and then finish with The White Dragon. Even though the Harper Hall Trilogy clearly is written for a younger audience, this sequence is the right one. Let's take a closer look at each book. I did a full reading experience on Dragonflight, the first one in the series, already, so I'll keep that one brief here. With 347 pages in my edition, it's not a big book. The reason why it still took me 2 weeks is because I was also reading The Gathering Storm, book 12 in the Wheel of Time. This book is somehow related to the first Discworld novel by Terry Pratchett. Nev, from Nev's book channel, suggested I read Dragonflight before starting to read the Discworld novels in their publication order. I did, and it was great advice. One of the parts in The Colour of Magic is a great satire of Dragonflight. Otherwise, it might have taken some time before I would have picked up the Pern books. Dragonflight is set on the world of Pern, where Dragonriders are part of the ancient ways. But few really know what their task was in the olden days. When dragons hatch from their eggs, they can be impressed by humans. This means that both dragon and human are bonded for life. And dragons can fly between, which means that they enter a sort of space-time void through which they can skip distance. When the red planet passes dangerously close to Pern, it becomes clear how important the Dragonriders and their skills are for the survival of their planet. Lesser, from Ruatha, plays a major role in saving their world, together with wing leader Efla of Benden Weir. The story and plot are ingeniously put together. I rated Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey 85 points out of 100, which compares to a high 4 stars. Dragonquest is the second book in the Dragonriders of Pern series, and it was first published in May 1971. The story takes place almost 7 so-called turns after the events of Dragonflight, A turn is the equivalent of a year. If I talk about the story, I may spoil something about the first book, so again I will keep it very brief. Let's just say that two factions of Dragonriders do not really see eye to eye, which is causing some disturbance in their task of saving Pern. I love how the technologically advanced founders of humanity on Pern, people coming from Earth, is woven into the story. With some of the miraculous findings from this long-forgotten era, the people of Pern can study the Red Planet better and even devise some plans that may ultimately free them forever of its threat. The story takes shape very slowly, perhaps a little bit too slow at times, but it is entertaining. With this book, I got better acquainted with this world and the habits of its people. Not only remained I intrigued about what was going to happen, but I also grew more curious about the distant past of Pern. The prose is in general quite businesslike, information-dense with flawlessly composed sentences and the occasional prudish word. Only sporadically could I catch the author in an outburst of poetry. That regrettable incident had hatched an unexpected brood of benefits. Like with Dragonflight, the names of the many characters sometimes make me dizzy. Just when I get the feeling I understand the world and what's going on, the author throws so many names like rapid fire at me that I'm instantly lost again. The highlight for me is this intense and emotional chapter where two queen dragons somehow get caught up in a mating flight. How that ends, I will leave up to the reader. The final 100 pages were truly amazing. Dragonquest is a fine read, and it has some sort of apotheosis. Still, much remains unresolved. It is more understandable than Dragonflight, but slightly less gripping. I rated it 84 points out of 100. Dragonsong is the first book in the Harper Hall Trilogy. These 3 short books cover a story that takes place between Dragonquest and the White Dragon. It is the shortest of the 6 books. The page count may be 284, almost the same as Dragonsinger with 283, and Dragondrums with 284 as well, but the font size is huge. It is not only a page-turner in that respect. The story is also captivating and endearing. Our main character is Meneli. She's the daughter of seaholder Janus at Half Circle. She's a very talented singer, harper and composer of songs. She has to go through a lot of hardship to be finally recognized for who she is. It is a beautiful coming-of-age story of a misunderstood and oppressed girl. During this read, I was not lost for one single moment. It's an easy-to-understand story because whatever may be foreign is explained, which is a relief. For instance, I was confused about the regularity of the Red Star passing Pern. In summaries, it was said that the Red Star passes each 200 turns to threaten the world of Pern. However, in the first book, there is mention of the Red Star appearing for the first time in 400 turns. Just one sentence at the beginning of Dragonsong clarifies. There came a time when the Red Star, due to the conjunction of Rukbart's 5 natural satellites, didn't pass close enough to Pern to drop the dreadful spores, and the Pernese forgot about the danger. Or simply, a queen dragon was gold. She mated with the bronze who could outfly her. Or the so far mysterious between that dragons go to when they want to travel great distances in very short time. Some place that isn't. You're neither here nor there. It's cold and it's nothing. No sight, no sound, no sensation. It is nice and frustrating at the same time to see that Anne McCaffrey is, after all, capable and willing to make the reader at ease. Something she, for whatever reason, refused to do in Dragonflight. This beautiful YA story about Meneli is highly predictable, but it still enchants. Predictability doesn't necessarily mean a degradation. It has very beautiful moments and it is highly entertaining. It is my most favourite Pern book so far. I read the whole thing in 2 sittings and loved it. I gave Dragonsong 92 points out of 100. In the Harper Hall Trilogy, the same thing happens as with the original trilogy. Each subsequent book is just a little bit less enjoyable. Dragonsinger continues where Dragonsong ended. We follow Menely at the Harper Hall, where she is finally educated to be a true harper. We meet with Pern, who is one of the most enjoyable characters within these books. He is one of the most sought-after young male sopranos, but he is also a born schemer. In the Harper Hall, Menely is given a room in the house of Dunka. She, and most of the girls who live there, give her a hard time. At times I thought I was reading one of those Enid Blyton stories about the twin girls on St. Clair's. This is all very YA-ish and really hasn't much connection with the story of the original trilogy. Still, at the same time, the educational parts Menely goes through reminded me also of Fitz from Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy, which shows that there is a big difference in the level within this book. Even though the most part of Dragonsinger is hardly connected with the original trilogy, at times the connection is beautifully illustrated. Through some sort of telepathic bond, Menely feels the danger Efnor has put himself in when he decides to be brave in Dragonquest, risking his own life and that of his dragon Canth. This results in a gripping scene. On the pages where Menely's huge talent for writing melodies and songs, I couldn't help but think that this would be something for Josh from Red Fury Books to read. Not that the text gets into the nitty-gritty of composing music, but it is very inspirational to read about the process of creating new music. There's this pungent line when Menely is being compared with her teacher on composition, Master Domik. He has the discipline. You have the originality. The universe trope makes this book into a very nice and easy read. The catfights between Menely and the girls are very Enid Blyton, and the story itself ripples on without much excitement. The prose is functional and, again, not very poetic. I gave Dragonsinger 79 points out of 100. The third book in the Harper Hall Trilogy has the same positives and less positive features as Dragonsinger. It takes place about 3 turns after the end of Dragonsinger. Here, Pern, my favourite character of this trilogy, plays the main part. When his voice breaks, his career as the lead soprano abruptly comes to an end. Master Harper Robinson has a special task for him, and he is officially apprenticed to the drum master to learn to become a drum messenger. The drums are the old ways of sending messages over long distances. Something similar happens to Pern as happened to Menely in Dragonsinger. He is being bullied by his fellow students. Again, it reads very easily and it's more a scoundrel novel which appears to have little to do with the bigger story of the original trilogy. The best part is when Pern miraculously escapes a predicament and has to survive in the southern part of Pern. Being the intelligent and resourceful boy that he is, this gives him no trouble at all. At the background of the story, we learn a little bit about the problems that arise between the Dragonriders of the North and the so-called old-timers that have been banished to the south of Pern. But we get nothing more than hints. Even though I very much enjoyed this quick read, it is slightly less than the previous 2. I gave Dragondrums 77 points out of 100. The final book of the original trilogy, The White Dragon, starts several turns after the events of Dragonquest and has a leading role for the young Lord Jackson of Ruatha Hold and his unusual white dragon, Ruth. Early in the book, it is clear that it helps if you have read the Harper Trilogy. The beginning is very slow, and it dawned on me that there is not a lot of beautiful sentences in McCaffrey's prose, but I believe I mentioned that already. It is nice to see how the fire lizards gain in relevance to the story, but again there is no real payoff or something exciting in the end. No big reveal or unexpected story twist. Strangely, I found that Meneley, who impresses 9 fire lizards in Dragonsong, here all of a sudden has 10 of those little creatures following her. Paul is a new name here. Only at page 211 do we get an explanation of why Paul is here. It's not very important perhaps, but it does show that McCaffrey's world building is spot on and she doesn't make any mistakes here. About 100 pages into the book, the story finally picks up a little bit. All in all, the story develops at a very slow pace. It is a nice and easy read, but not very gripping or captivating. Also, in character development, there is not much going on. Of course, characters age, but it's not like the Robin Hobb characters, where the readers get a real-life coming-of-age and adult insights that change a man or a woman. The Pern characters remain rather shallow. Because of the slow pace of the story, the author gets the opportunity to bring more depth into the world building. For instance, the mystery of the founders continues to intrigue. Also, some of the interactions between people get more depth, like the relationship between Jackson and his upbringer Lighthall. Around page 260, the pace picks up again. Not a moment too soon. Also, the emotions from some of the characters feel stronger. Even though the story is absolutely entertaining and memorable, it somehow progresses towards the final page without any real apotheosis to speak of, which is a bit disappointing, to be honest. And the afterword mainly functions as adding more cliffhangers for other books in this series. So, a very nice book. No poetry, little excitement, much promise which is hardly delivered. I would have liked to see more about the ancients and also how the Red Planet is being dealt with, but perhaps the other books in this series will go into this. I gave The White Dragon 82 points out of 100. Putting my ratings of these 6 books in order, you see that each trilogy tends to score a little less with each subsequent book. And that is not really how you want it to be. A good trilogy, like Mistborn Era 1 by Brandon Sanderson, The Rhaeria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan, or the earlier mentioned Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, builds up to a finale that pales the previous books. Here, the opposite is the case. The first books so much promise that the reader never really gets to harvest. The books are absolutely enjoyable, and I will be reading more about Pern in the future. Still, the absence of a big bang at the end left me somewhat unfulfilled. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutch Greybeard.